Hey, this is Andy Gerold from There Is No Us, and you're listening to the Nothing Shocking Podcast.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking Podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on X at No Shock Pod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking Podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Andy Gerold from the band There Is No Us.
Yeah, they're going to be on tour this October in support of Mushroomhead. Go out and check them out if they come around your area. Let's get to that interview.
All right, good night.
Good night. Andy, welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'd like to introduce to you my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Andy, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
And we're excited to have you. Thanks for your willingness to participate. Let's get right into this. There Is No Us will be hitting the road in support of Mushroomhead this October. Can you give our listeners an insight to the schematics to this tour this fall?
So we are doing, basically, it's not all East Coast stuff. But it's more on the East Coast side and sort of Midwest. It's from October 4th, I think, is the first show. And then the last show is October 26th, I believe.
Oh, very good. I know that you'll be coming to the Rust Belt here in East Moline, close to our hometown. As far as you Mushroomhead, yourself, and who else is on the bill with you guys?
So the direct support for Mushroomhead is Upon a Burning Body, who are like a metalcore kind of band. They're actually really, really good live. And then there's a band called Mind Incision, which I believe is like a newer band. I'm not too familiar with them, but they're like the openers on the show. And then like some shows, I don't really know the schedules for every show yet. There might be some local openers on some of them, but I'm not really sure yet.
Oh, okay, very good.
But that's the tour package is the four main bands.
Fantastic.
Nice. Tell us a little bit more about There Is No Us. Who are the other band members with you, and who did you guys get started? Was it around 2015?
Yeah, I mean, me and Jim, the singer, we've been playing in bands since we were, teenagers. So we've been friends for over 25 years. Jared Bacon is the other guitar player, and we've also been friends with him since high school. Jared didn't join the band, though, until a few years after we started. I mean, me and Jim kind of just, when we first started in 2015, it was more of just like, let's write some songs and, just kind of have fun and just, play a few shows here and there just for fun. And then, once we got into the second record, I think we started kind of doing, music videos and taking it a little bit more seriously. But we really sort of dug in, not last December, but the December before that. So that's 2022. December of 2022, I think, is when we, started working with Cleopatra Records. And once that happened, we kind of like really dug in and started to take things a little bit more seriously. Since, we had a little bit more help, and started kind of doing a schedule of, trying to release a song every, 6 to 8 weeks, and just to sort of build up some online stuff. And then also, getting everything together to, actually release a full-length record with Cleopatra.
Fantastic. We're going to bring this back to the tour. With this tour taking on the entire month of October, for the most part, where is the band's comfort zone when it comes to going on the road? Is 4 weeks pretty much your comfort zone, or can you guys do more? Or I guess in this part of your career, where is the comfort zone of touring for you and the rest of the band?
Well, we're about to find out, because this this lineup, has never toured yet. Like I said, we never really we didn't really take it that seriously until just maybe, for over like a year, like recording and putting out songs, and then finally going, all right, well, we did all that. So how do we, get on the road? So, I mean, the current lineup hasn't even been, touring ever. I mean, we do, regional stuff. So we play California, Arizona, Las Vegas. We've done that, throughout the past year, just kind of sort of playing shows to get ready for the tour. But I mean, like I said, me, Jim, and Jared have been friends for, 25 plus years. And then Eddie, the bass player, and Dan, we've known them for, a long time too. So we're all best friends. So we'll see what happens when we're all on top of each other for 4 weeks, but I think it'll be all right. I mean, we're all old now, so I feel like, you just kind of have to find sort of your little, the zone, where you're like, I don't want to hang out with anyone type of thing. I'm going to go do my own thing for a little bit, and then, kind of regroup. But I guess we'll find out.
Oh, exciting.
Can you just tell us a little bit about your guys' like your stage, and how you have it set up as far as like, are you going to have any backdrops or video, or how does it work for your band?
Well, so that's another thing we've been doing the past year, is we've been kind of like figuring out what we can do to kind of stand out, since we're technically a newer band. I mean, this is the first record on an actual label, and this is the first tour. I mean, so we consider ourselves like a newer band. Like, not a lot of people really know who we are yet. So that was one thing we were kind of discussing. And so for the past year, I've been like, programming. We have these light sticks that are just straight up and down lights that are wireless. They don't need to be plugged in, and everything runs from the computer, so I can sync up all the lights, and they're really easy to get on and off stage. So those have been programmed, so those go out through the whole show, which is really cool. And then we do have 2 TVs that we use if there's enough room on stage, and usually we can fit them because we don't use any amps. We just go direct. And so that's basically what we'll be doing. So I've just been trying to get the lights and the video and everything kind of synced up, and trying different things. Like the last show we did in Tucson, I tried to use these wireless HDMI plugs, so I didn't have to like run the wireless, didn't have to run the HDMI cables all like, from one side of the stage to the other, and they just completely failed. So I was like, all right, well, I guess we're not using those. So, just stuff like that, where you're like, how can we make things super easy? And also, how can we make it so that we can get on and off stage very quickly? Because since we're second, unless there's local support, more than likely we won't have sound check. And then also, you want to just, when you're done, you want to just get off and not be in anyone's way.
Yeah,
exactly.
So we're lucky enough not to have to use any amps or anything. So we basically just have a rack on my side. We have a rack on the other side of the stage and a drum kit, and we run all our in-ears, and we run our own front of house. So we have our sound guy who runs front of house. So we're pretty much self-contained, and we pretty much got like a little system down. Now it's just a matter of like, how do we get on and off stage, quickly and in a timely manner. But the stage show should look pretty cool. There's a couple shows where Upon a Burning Body isn't playing, so we'll be direct support, and that's like the bigger clubs that we're playing. So we'll definitely use the TVs there. I think one of them actually has a screen in the back, so I can literally just plug my computer into that screen, and it'll show our visual stuff on the screen, which would be really cool.
Fantastic.
Nice.
Any venue that has like screens like that, or like a backdrop that you can run video, will be cool, because then we don't have to use the TVs. But I'm not exactly sure which ones do and which ones don't.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you talk a little bit about the songwriting dynamics in the band? Do you primarily do the songwriting, or do you guys? Is it a collaborative effort, or how does it work?
Well, at the very beginning, I was writing all of the music and stuff, but for the second record, me and Jim kind of collabed a little bit more, and then actually for these songs, the whole band collaborated a little bit more. So, most of I write most of the main ideas, but this time I brought ideas that didn't have endings or bridges or whatever, and we all kind of sat in a room and just kind of finalized each song, and so this record was like more of a collaborative thing, which is it's actually better. I mean, the more depending on the people and everyone's sort of kind of demeanor, like, the more people who have input that don't care if their ideas get shot down, like that's the way to do it. So like if someone has an idea and we're like, nah, that's not cool, what else you got, like that, if that can be the dynamic, that's when the best music will come out, because all of us have been musicians for 30 years or whatever. So I mean, I feel like the more you have when it comes down to the finalizing of the songs, I feel like, everyone has like, with me, it's like, if I have an idea, it's kind of like, I'll put it down with guitars and drums and blah, blah, blah. But, as far as like finalizing it or needing a different part for, if I'm like, I don't like this part, and actually lyrically too, we did the same thing. It was like, all right, we need a second verse for this song lyrically. Like, what do you guys got? Like, let's sort of brainstorm. And, you get some good stuff out of that, as long as everyone's ego is that of they don't care if their idea gets shot down.
Very good.
Yeah.
There Is No Us released the band's first EP, Farewell to Humanity, back in 2015. Can you take us back to the writing and recording of that first EP?
Yeah, so that was basically, I basically just wrote everything on that. Mm-hmm. And then I had Jim come in, because we live in different cities. So I had him come out and just record all the vocals. And that was pretty much it. I had a few of those ideas before we started, I think. And because really what happened was he was in one of his older bands. He sent me a song of theirs, and, just be like, hey, what do you think of the song? Blah, blah, blah. And I think the bridge or one of the parts, he was screaming in it. And I was like, wow, man, like your scream has really gotten really good these days. Like, let's write a couple like metal songs and see how they come out. And he's like, all right. So that was basically kind of how it started. It was just a more like, let's just see what happens. We wanted it to be heavy, and, but with that old stuff, there's a lot of like samples and talking. Like I was really like into that kind of whole thing. So the dynamic of the music has definitely shifted a lot since then. But which is good, I think.
Absolutely. Well, let's get into the second EP, Generation of Failure, in 2018. Yeah, how did the writing and recording for you of the second album differ from the debut?
Well, that one definitely, I think it was more of like me and Jim collaborating, where it was like I said, maybe I just would have an idea for a chorus or a verse or something, and then we just spent more time like together working on the music. And then also it was that thing of like, okay, well, like let's try to get, someone with a name involved in it. And so we got Terry Date to mix it, who, he did Pantera, Deftones, all those guys. So me and Jim got to go out and mix the record with Terry, and it was really cool. It was just a cool experience to meet him and hang out and like see his studio and all the platinum and gold records that he has on his wall. So like that was the thing of like, we were just one step, higher of like kind of taking it a little more seriously. And we shot a couple videos for a couple of those songs, stuff that we didn't do with the first one. And that's kind of like I believe that's when we got Eddie in the band, the bass player, and we didn't get Dan the drummer till later on. But so we were sort of like, finalizing the lineup and just kind of taking it a little more seriously with that one.
As you look back at those two EPs, if you could go back in time, are there things that you would change on either EP? Are you satisfied of the end product of both of them for what they were back in 2015 and 2018?
Yeah, no, I don't think I would change anything. I guess the only thing I would really probably change is maybe get like someone to mix that first Farewell EP, like someone with, someone like a professional mixer. Like I did all that stuff. So, which I mean, it is what it is, but it's not. You can tell the difference, between the mixing of Farewell and Generation, which is a huge difference. And I feel like just sonically, that one's a lot better. But that's really it. I think those songs are, they are what they are, I guess. I think the songwriting is definitely a little more polished now. And, we're kind of like, we know like, what lane we're in. It's like, we're not, just a normal, hard rock pop band like that can just be played on the radio. Like it's basically all screaming, and some of it is a little bit lighter, but, so we have to be careful with that. And it's that thing of like, well, we still want it to be accessible to as many people as we can. So we try to make it as hooky as possible with those things in mind of like, we still want it to be heavy and have that edge to it. But, I don't want it to just be metal. You know what I mean? As far as I'm concerned, we call ourselves industrial punk rock because that's what I think it is. I think it's industrial music, and I think Jim is more like a punk rock singer where sometimes he just screams and sometimes he kind of just talks, or, and that's kind of how the punk rock vocals were back in the day. And we just add some keyboards and shit to it.
Very good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been in a few bands, like you've talked about being in music for 30 years. How has some of your previous bands shaped you into where you are today with There Is No?
Well, I definitely think I played in a band called 16 Volt. I really just did a couple tours with them. But before I did those tours, I was a huge fan, and so Eric, the singer and primary songwriter, his music has had a huge influence on me. And I could specifically point out parts in songs where I'm like, oh yeah, I quote unquote borrowed that from his song. But I think definitely songwriting wise, and then also, just touring with other bands, you kind of see like the dynamic between band members and stuff like that. And like, you sort of realize like, as you get older, like if I'm going to tour, especially just me, like I feel like if I'm going to tour, and do kind of like an original thing where you're kind of eating shit at the beginning. You know what I mean? Like, we're not getting paid for any of these shows. Like, personally, we're losing so much money, but you're going to go out and try and do it, and you're doing it with your friends. And like, that's cool.
Indeed. The band has released a fair amount of singles from 2023 and 2024. Do you feel in the now releasing singles is a more practical way of releasing music in this era of modern rock and roll, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, to me, unless you're, already established, the only way to do it is to release singles. And the reason is because people's attention span is literally just a swipe. That's their attention span. So when you put out, like, let's just say, for example, instead of putting out all of those singles, and I think what did we put out, 5 or 6 or something throughout the past year and a half or whatever. If we wouldn't have done that, and the very first thing we put out was just our full record, it would have been, just swiped away in a matter of a week or two. And then what do you do? It's like, okay, well, I guess we'll put out another record a year or two later, and they'll do the same thing. They'll just swipe it away. So with a band like us that's newer and that not a lot of people know of, you have to just keep putting out material. And, even if you just reach a few more people each time you put out a song, that's better than nothing. And that's basically what we did, is every 6 to 8 weeks we would release a song and try to, put a video behind it, whether it be a lyric video or like a normal video or, any of that stuff. Like, we do all of our own videos. Jim is a videographer, who's worked with all kinds of huge bands, and a photographer. And so he has a studio, where he works out of. He just finished doing Carrie King and Kitty and stuff like that. So like, we can do all of our own videos. We shoot them there, and Jim and his partner Tony, they direct them, and then they give me the footage and I edit it all, and we can put out songs and videos, and we do basically everything on our own. Which is, it's that type of thing. When you're new, you have to do it that way. And, me and Jim like having the control, but at a certain point, and we're hoping, if we can do a couple tours after that, then you start to sort of need help. If you're still moving up, and you're getting fans and stuff seems to be on the upswing, that's when you sort of go, all right, maybe bring a manager in and maybe have them help you a little bit. And then, just little baby steps like that until you can get to the point where it's like, okay, well, do we think we can just, put out an album and have it, be relevant for, 6 months to a year before, you start recording your next one? That's way down the line. But like a band like the Foo Fighters, they don't need to put out a single every 6 to 8 weeks. They can just put out a record and it'll last a while. They'll get radio play and stuff like that, to where the longevity of it can be, and they'll go on their, long year to a year and a half long tours with festivals. And that keeps it, that keeps their whole record a fresh thing, because while they're doing that, they're doing interviews and talking about the record. And that lasts for 12 to 18 months. With someone like us, it's like all of that is basically just whittled down to, Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
So that's sort of our thing of like, trying to keep it lasting, for a while.
It feels as though that, releasing in this modern day, releasing singles at a time is like we're going backwards in time, back to the 50s when artists were releasing 45s. As my parents have thousands of 45s in their collection, but in the now, you talk a little bit more about releasing the physical product of an EP opposed to, will the band ever decide to release a full length? In this modern era, is it even, I guess financially responsible for you guys to even release a full length physical product in the now?
Right. Well, that's a good question. And what you said about, the 45 thing is that makes sense, except for nowadays that 45 is just a digital thing.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
back then they could release the 45 and someone would buy that physical product that would fund, the record labels and the bands to actually do stuff. Nowadays it's like you have to fund everything yourself because you're not, selling physical copies. However, speaking of 45s, vinyl has absolutely come back in a big way. And, we basically talked the label into, being like, hey, listen, if you release the record that's, on Spotify and everything, that's great. But, you should release, unlimited vinyl pressing and see how it does. And they were like, okay. So, yeah, I mean, like we have a full length, like actual record that you put on a record player, and it's been selling great. I mean, the first show we just did in Tucson, we sold a few of them. And I mean, at $40 a pop, it's not like you're gonna, burn through those.
Right.
If you're playing these little shows, but on tour, if as long as there's people there in the crowd, we should be selling those, because it's like people just got sick of like, when I was a kid. I couldn't wait to get my hands on, the artwork and the lyrics and stuff like that, and read along with them and like have a physical thing in my hand to keep. And so I feel like even nowadays, even the kids nowadays, are buying vinyl, and they're buying record players, and some of them, some people will just buy the record and just keep it just to have something. They don't even have a record player, but it's that thing of like, oh, I have this thing. We still sell CDs, you know what I mean? Like, so it's like people, I feel like nowadays it's really bizarre, but the vinyl thing has come back. So we decided to, press some vinyl, and if it does well, we'll keep, making them. Jim he's like, dude, I want to make cassette tapes and stuff too. And I was like, okay, like let's see what that, like, you know what I mean? Like it's just physical stuff that people can support the band by buying and having and stuff like that. But
absolutely.
It's a good sign, I think, and it's not like, it was in the 80s and 90s where people are going to be buying millions of these things, for newer bands, but it is enough to where, if you can go on tour and play in front of some people and sell a few of those things, you sell a vinyl and a t-shirt and you make $70 off of one person at a show. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was my next question, was the merchandise. Cause I mean, back in the day when stuff was a little less expensive, you'd go to every show and buy a shirt or whatever. But, now as the prices creep up a little bit, it gets a little harder to buy all that stuff. But what is the band's approach to merch on the road and online?
Well, so right now we have 4 different shirts, and we're actually going to make a long sleeve tour shirt that's tour specific. It has the dates on the back, and we have hats, CDs, buttons. We have the vinyl now, and so it's that thing of like, since we own all of our merchandise, like we paid for it, so we own it. The record label, that we don't owe the label for any of that. That's basically our primary, source of income. So you have to have enough variety to where, if you have one shirt and someone comes to your merch booth and is like, they didn't really like that shirt. Well, that's that. Like, they don't buy a shirt. But if you have 3 or 4 choices, if they want to buy a shirt, they'll more than likely, pick, from 4 choices of something. The challenge is that you got to bring enough of it to sell, and it all takes up space in the trailer. So exactly. You sort of have to pick and choose. Like we have 4 short sleeve shirts right now. Jim wanted to do a long sleeve tour one. I said, that's fine, but you have to pick one of the short sleeves to not bring, because we just won't have room. So 4 is like the max we'll bring with us for now, but 4 is the max we'll bring with us because, it takes up room. But, we have stickers and buttons and hats and stuff like that and CDs that don't really take up a lot of room, in the thing. So if you have little stuff like that, like that's good too, because I feel like having, you know, a sort of a price choice as well. So like right now we have things that are $5, $15, $25, $30, and $40. So it's like not only do we have a choice of merchandise, of shirts and different stuff like that, we have like a price thing of like, well, if someone doesn't want to spend $25 on something and they want to just throw us $5, they can get 2 buttons and a sticker. You know what I mean? So you're trying to give, you know, the consumer like as many choices as possible that you can go along with you in the trailer, I guess.
I just saw Black Flag last Thursday night, and at their merch table, you know, they had everything, you know, T-shirts, long sleeve, short sleeve, crew necks, hoodies, skateboards, stickers, koozies. I mean, I'm missing a ton of other things too to go along with it. But you know, with that, you know, saying that, do you feel as though that, you know, the merch making a band more of a brand is the way of the future as far as being, I guess, you know, making $1 for the band and making $1 for yourself as opposed to selling physical copies of your actual music? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, well, first of all, the goal of any sort of marketing of a band was to make the band a brand. Mm-hmm. So that goes back as long as you can remember, regardless of anything, because you want it to be a thing. Whether, you know, the logo or, I mean, you know, like you can go back to like Zeppelin having the little, you know, symbols and stuff like that. That's making the band a brand, like where you recognize a symbol and you go, oh, that's Led Zeppelin. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that goes way back, but you're right. So instead of it being, you know, you cannot, as a newer band right now, especially, you know, just rock and metal. I mean, pop artists are in a whole nother universe, but just rock and metal, you absolutely cannot sustain yourself just by selling your music, because Spotify and all the digital streaming services. So you do have to be creative with the merchandise. And like, you know, you said the koozies, we were going to do koozies, and I was like, let's do hats and see how that goes. But eventually we probably will do koozies, because that's another thing where, you know, you could stuff a ton of those in a tiny little box and bring them and sell them for, you know, $5 or something. But that's a good idea. Like, and like, you know, when you were naming off all those things, I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what they should have. They should have short sleeves and hoodies. It's as much as you can possibly fit, you know, on a merch table, or bring with you the choice, because, that's just like anything. Walking up to a merch table, you can look around and you know, if you want to buy something, you can find something to buy, as long as you have the choice.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk a little bit about, you know, outside of your main band. You live in Las Vegas. You know, you've played with Blue Man Group and Rock of Ages. Can you talk a little bit about those experiences?
Yeah. So I started touring with the Rock of Ages show, and I did that for, I think, a couple years, maybe like a year and a half. But eventually the show and the producers wanted to do like a sit down in Vegas. And so they asked the band if anyone, you know, would be willing to move out to Vegas. And, we were all like, yeah, let's do it. So that's basically what brought me here. And the show stayed here for about 4 years. And then after that, I just kind of did, you know, just like sub work for other shows like Tenors of Rock and stuff like that, just other little shows out here. And then I started Blue Man almost 3 years ago. And that's like, you know, it's such a, you know, weird, you know, like dynamic of a show. Rock of Ages, when I first started that, like, it was so bizarre because it's so different than just going and playing on stage with, you know, 4 other people or whatever. It's, you know, 20 actors and, you know, a whole production, and you have a conductor, and like, you know, we played Rock of Ages is just basic, you know, 80s rock songs, but you know, they intertwine it with the story, and like, you know, you have to pay attention to the conductor, and there's clicks and there's count offs, and it's just a whole different thing. I mean, it was a cool experience to do. And then Blue Man is completely different because there's no actors, no talking. I mean, the Blue Men are technically actors, but they don't talk. So some songs are to a click. Some songs are, you know, you're just following them. Or some songs you're just following each other. But I play, you know, 2 instruments I've never played before. One is a Chapman stick, which is basically if you just chop the neck off of a guitar and made it a little wider, that's basically that. And then a thing called the zither, which is, it looks like a lap steel, but a little bit bigger. And you just do different weird stuff to that. Cause all the music is original music, you know, written just for Blue Man, which is really cool too. So, you know, it's just cool to do just different stuff like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
All right.
that's amazing.
One more question for you, because we are running out of our allotted time for the evening. But after this tour with Mushroomhead subsides, what can the fans expect from the band? And as far as new music is concerned, what can the fans expect at the tail end of 2024 and going into 2025?
Well, hopefully we can, you know, get another tour at the beginning of the year. We are currently, you know, working on new music. So we've had these songs for this record, you know, for a while, even before we started working with Cleopatra. So these are, to us, you know, they're older songs. To everyone who's going to see them like on the road and stuff, they're obviously brand new. So it's sort of breathing a little bit of new life into them, since we're playing them in front of people who have never heard them before. But to us, they're old. So we've been like, you know, just working on like new demos and stuff like that, sort of looking to the future of being like, all right, well, you know, what's the next sort of record going to kind of look like or be like? So I'm not exactly sure how we're going to do that. I mean, it could be another thing where, you know, for 2025, we sort of do the same thing where we, every 6 to 8 weeks, we release, you know, a new song. And then once we've released maybe 6 or 7 of them, then we put out, you know, another record. Like, I can see that happening. And to me, I think that's a good strategy, even, you know, even if we're touring and stuff like that, because it just keeps us sort of, you know, motivated to put out new music, and also, you know, to be creative. Like, if you put out a song, you know, you got to go figure out what kind of video you want to make, and, you know, to keep it, you know, to keep everything relevant. So I could see us doing something like that. It just kind of all depends on everyone's schedule and, what another tour looks like for maybe the beginning of next year too. So we'll see.
Fantastic. Well, like I said, we're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that you would like to plug or promote that we left off tonight?
No, I mean, I would just say you can go to our, you know, website, thereisnowes.com. It has links to the vinyl. It has links to tickets. So if you want to see us on tour, and it has all like our videos and stuff like that, and our social media and stuff like that. And that's about it. But, you know, I'd like to thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it was a pleasure. We
enjoyed it.
We appreciate the interview opportunity. So this is how things are going to work out. Jeff, the editing ninja over here, will get all of our boogers all cleaned up, and we'll sound like $1 million. And we'll send you the link immediately, and please share it wherever you possibly can.
No, of course. That's awesome. Just let me know.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
It was an honor having you on tonight.
All right. Thanks, guys, so much.
Thank you.
Great. Awesome.
Take care. Thanks. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Come true, but you just can't do it here. fight the grip of nights. If they ever take from you, then you plug out both their eyes. They roll the dice. Take your chances.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.